welcome back to my channel. It's Lexi, and today I want to talk about the 3 books I read in February and my March hopefuls / TBR. So let's just get right into it. The first book I read and finished in February was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars. I would say overall I enjoyed the book, and I do think I'm going to continue reading the series as it comes out. I just had major problems with the relationship in this book. Personally, I don't read fantasy books for the romance. I do really enjoy the romance in fantasy, but I love the high fantasy elements in the fantasy books. So the romance didn't turn me off of the book too much, but I did have a problem with the romance being extremely insta-lovey. I was getting to a point of being like 250 pages in the book, and the 2 main characters just were like insta-love, and I'm like, it is crazy to be 200 something pages into a book that is romantic-y and it still feels insta-lovey. It was very much just telling me that they had a connection. It wasn't showing me how their connection like developed or anything like that. And that was my biggest takeaway from that book. I think if that's something that wouldn't bother you, you may love Quicksilver. I had to knock it down a little bit because I did have an issue with the way the romance was written. But fantasy-wise, I devoured this book. Quicksilver in this book is a magical form of transportation, and it was so unique to read about, and I overall did have a fun time. Next book I read in February was The Pickleballers by Ilana Young. I ended up giving this book a 3 stars as well. I actually enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I don't typically pick up sports romances. They're not something I usually enjoy. Like I had said earlier, I like romance, but it's not typically that makes me love a book. But I did really enjoy this one. I had never seen a sports romance about pickleball, and if you don't know this about me, my husband and I love to play. So when I saw this at my local bookstore, I was like, you're coming home with me. Like, I need you. So I read it. It was a very quick read. It's clean. There's not smut or anything. So if that's something that you look for in a book, this is a very clean adult romance about pickleball. So it was a really fun little read. The last book I read in February was Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I gave this book 3 stars as well. It was okay. It was not life-changing. It was not my favorite. I was just in a really big reading slump. So I was like, I need a quick little something. I was trying to read a sci-fi. It wasn't happening. So I picked up Wild Love, and it was I don't love smut in a book, so kind of my bad for thinking I would like this. But it doesn't happen until like 70% into the book, and it is skippable, and there is still a plot. My biggest issue is that the male main character is in his late 20s or 30s, I can't remember, and his 12-year-old daughter is more mature than him. I can't stand the immature thing. He's like a billionaire, completely out of touch with reality. It wasn't my thing. I think people that like that might really still love this book. It just wasn't for me. I will try to read probably one more Elsie Silver book. If it doesn't vibe, I'm done with her. But again, that's just probably a me thing. Those were the 3 books I read in February. It was a very, very light reading month for me. I was in an extreme reading slump. I found out this February that I do have some mood reading tendencies, which is not like me at all. I typically make a TBR and I follow it, and that just wasn't happening for me this month. I struggled big time. I've never had mood reading tendencies, so I was like, what do I do? So that's kind of why it was such a slow reading month. I just was not vibing with the books I was trying to read. Not that the books I was trying to read were bad, and they're still on this list in my March TBR. I just was not in the mood to be reading sci-fis and fantasies in February. So with that being said, let's talk about my March TBR. What I'm going to talk about is my current read, which is When the Moon Hatched by Sara A. Parker. I am about 55% done this book right now, and I gotta be honest, I'm not loving it. Kind of similar with the Quicksilver thing, it's extremely insta-lovey. It's supposed to be a slow burn enemies to lovers, and it is not slow burn, and it's barely enemies to lovers. Like, they're not enemies, and they're basically lovers right away. Like, I'm just not getting that, and I'm not loving the insta love. Like, I want to read about the connection becoming stronger between the characters. I don't want them to go from like, I hate you to like, oh my gosh, I would kill anything that got in your way. Like, I would do anything for you. Like, I want to read the in-betweens. I want to feel the in-betweens. And I'm just not getting that with this book. Not to mention, I'm, like I said, like 55% done. And I am still extremely confused about the world and the world building and even the magic system. And I'm like, I'm over 200 pages in. Why am I still so confused? And I read like high fantasy books. And this is just, I think, poor world building. And I don't say that lightly because I just don't want to sit here and like talk bad about any authors or any book, because like I personally couldn't write a book, so like who am I to say? But like I would say I'm a seasoned fantasy reader and I'm struggling to understand what is happening in this world. And maybe it is me, like maybe I'm just not in the mindset, I don't know. But the only reason I'm continuing on with this book right now is because it is for a buddy read. So I'm going to stick it through and we will see. Right now it's looking to be about a 2-star. And the reason it's not 1 is because I typically save the 1 stars for DNF / like I'm ill reading this. And I'm not ill. Like, I am intrigued in the plot. It's just the story building and the world building and the romance that's just really not doing it. Next book on my March TBR is The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe. This was one of the books I was trying to read in February that I just wasn't getting through. And I'm about 50 pages in, so I don't really know the plot or anything yet still, but this is just not a book for February in regards to mood reading. It is not giving February lovey cutesy vibes, but it is interesting and I do see the pieces coming together. I just need to sit down and read it. This will probably be, I'll probably read this very, very soon. I do want to knock it out because I've heard amazing things about it. My sister-in-law highly, highly recommends this, so I'm sure I'll love it. I just have to get there. I just haven't read an adult sci-fi in a minute. So I have to get myself back in the mindset of cyborgs and sci-fi, and it'll happen and I know I'll love it. I am loving the writing in this is good, so I know I'll like it, but I just gotta get there. This book was also on my February TBR that I didn't get to, and that's The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I have just been dying to read this because I've been like itching for a book that feels like Caraval, and I heard like the whimsical magic in this book feels kind of like Caraval but for an adult, so I am so excited to read this. And I think I'm ready. Like, I have been like, oh, I really want to pick that up. So I do really want to read this in March. I would say it's probably still not super high on the TBR. Like, there's some other books that I'm more excited to read. So I'm hoping this doesn't mean that this gets put on the back burner again, because I do really want to read this, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many other good books, and March has a ton of new releases. But anyway, The Night Circus is also on the TBR, kind of on the bottom though. Next, it has been a minute since I've read like a YA fantasy, so I'm going to pick up Of Jade and Dragons is by Amber Chen. I don't know a singular thing about this book. I got it from Owl Crate during like when I had my subscription with them last year. And it's absolutely stunning, and there's dragons on the cover, so like seems like it might be up my alley. I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't done any research on it. It's been on my shelf because I got it from Owl Crate, so I feel like I need to at least give it a try, and I'm really in the mood for YA fantasy, so we're going with this. Next, this has been one of my more anticipated reads of the year, which is Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. I am so excited about this book. I read Heartless Hunter or The Crimson Moth when it first came out, and I've been so excited about this. The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter ends on a cliffhanger, so this has been so anticipated for me, and I've heard amazing things about it so far, so I am extremely excited to finally read this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to wait. I might pick this up after my current read. Instead of The Blighted Stars. I don't know. I'm just really excited for this. It's a duology, so once I finish this book, the series will be done, and I can kind of like it'll just feel like an accomplishment finishing a duology, I feel like. So I am super excited to read this. Next, for my in-person book club, we picked First Time Callers by BK Borison. I don't really know too much about this. It has just come extremely highly recommended to me by my cousin and a couple other people I know. Or I'm friends with, so I am so excited about this for my book club. I don't have a great track record with romance, so I'm hoping this feels more like a literary, but we will see. I'm very excited about it. The cover is so cute, and I've just heard amazing things about it. Next is a book that hasn't come out yet, which is The Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Laurie Gilmore. This is the next installment in the Interconnected Standalone Dream Harbor series. This comes out later on in the month, and I am like moderately excited for it, I would say. I didn't love the Cinnabon bookstore, but I really liked the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and I liked the Christmas Tree Farm. So I'm going to give this one a try. If I don't love it, I'm probably going to be done with my Laurie Gilmore journey. I just don't love a lot of the relationships, and I don't care for spice. So we'll see. But I'm going to give it a shot because I do like the atmosphere she's created, and I love the town. It gives like Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls, and I love that. So I do want to give it a try. But if this one I don't love, I'm probably going to be done with the Dream Harbor series, so we'll see. And lastly, I say my absolute most anticipated read of the whole year for last, which is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. I am so freaking excited for this book. I have been anticipating this for, oh gosh, like 10 years. I've been dying for Haymitch's book since the minute I finished Mockingjay the first time I read it. And I just couldn't be more excited that we are finally going to get our hands on it this month. I can't wait to see what she has to say. So I'm so excited. I will for sure be reading that this month. Okay, if you watched this far, thank you so much. This was my February wrap up and my very ambitious March TBR. I would be shocked if I read even half of these books, but shoot for the stars, I guess. We'll see what March brings. I would love to know what your most anticipated read of the month is, and I hope you guys all have a blessed day. Bye!